Happy Mother's Day and welcome to our bulletin tonight. This is The Point of News. We're glad you made the time to join us. My name is Yvonne Okwara-Matole.
And I'm John Allen Namu. Lots ahead on this bulletin, including one discussion that's being had throughout this week by our women parliamentarians as well as many people in society. And it's getting quite a lot of feedback and traffic on Checkpoint on the hashtag. And that, of course, is...
Yes, the gender rule. Let's take a look at what it is in our Super Bowl. This is where this conversation all began when we promulgated the Constitution in 2010. In a bid to make sure we have equality in our elective bodies, this is what Article 81 said, that no more than 2/3 of the members of elective public bodies shall be of the same gender. Essentially, a third should be women. What we cannot decide now is how to ensure that this rule is met.
Actually happens, a formula.
Yes, there has to be a formula. And we'll get into the details of that. And it's obviously a very heated subject. I must say, though, whatever stands we hold, because this is one of those, again, that it's, let's be respectful, especially towards women. It is Mother's Day. I've seen some tweets that are a little unsavory. However, Checkpoint is the hashtag we're using tonight. At KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, and at John Allen Namu, we're asking you, do you think having more women in elective politics will improve the quality of politics and governance in the country? So keep your views coming in on that.
Of course, we've got lots more lined up for you from across the country, including that political debate and that political meeting in the South Rift, I believe. The South Rift?
Yes.
Yes, the South Rift, between Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, as well as Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, and what came out of that. So stand by. These are the highlights on KTN Weekend Prime. More deaths on our roads as accident claims the lives of 10 people in Kipkaren.
Gazeti inaambia ya kwamba nyinyi watu ya Bomet, watu ya Rift Valley ati mumechoka na ndugu yangu. Bana,
hawa watu kwa kauli moja watatembea na sisi 100% Jubilee 2017.
And Uhuru pleads for Rift Valley support for Ruto.
If you want to know the boundaries of the Kenyan counties today, you must go back to the boundaries that were defined in the Independence Constitution.
There is nothing like cattle rustling anymore.
Resolving the conflicts over Kenya's deadly boundaries. And the quest for lasting solutions to the conflict in Nadome.
Marisha Owiti is our sign language interpreter tonight. Thank you for joining us. President Uhuru Kenyatta was in the South Rift region today with a stern warning to URP leaders to end the political wrangles that he says will derail Jubilee's development agenda.
The president was speaking about the political supremacy battles pitting his deputy, William Ruto, against a section of leaders in the South Rift region led by Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto. Aaron Ochieng reports.
It was a rare gathering that brought together South Rift political adversaries for a fundraiser in aid of the African Gospel Church, which was presided over by President Uhuru Kenyatta. The head of state was making his first tour of Bomet County as president, and it was an ideal location to mediate in what is seen as a possible fallout between the deputy president and Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto. The president gave a stern warning to URP leaders to end the political wrangles that he said would derail Jubilee's development agenda.
Kuna wengine ambao kwa sababu wamezoea ile siasa ya jana, wanataka tuendelee ati kila siku. If there is no political contest, if there is no political conflict, they are not satisfied.
Deputy President William Ruto made it clear that those opposed to the formation of Jubilee Alliance Party, JAP, are digging their own political grave.
Hawa watu kwa kauli moja watatembea na sisi 100% Jubilee 2017. And for those who are in doubt, the writing is on the wall.
Uhuru said he's tired of reading in the newspapers on a daily basis about the political wrangles in the region, adding that days of confrontational politics were long gone. He challenged them to embrace dialogue. The president accused the media of fueling the political wrangles in the region.
Yale ambayo tunasoma ni ya upuzi. Kwa hivyo vile nilisema ya kwamba gazeti ni ya kufunga nyama ni sawa. Tuendelee namna hiyo. Basi sawa sawa tuendelee. Mimi nataka kujua tu kwenu nyinyi ya kwamba nyinyi pia munafurahia kama mimi kazi ambayo tunafanya pamoja.
On the eviction of people from the Mau forest that saw politicians from the region criticize the government over the move, the president defended his government, saying those affected had crossed the forest cut line, but the government will ensure that they are resettled elsewhere.
Mimi nilichukua kazi hiyo mimi mwenyewe. Na tukasema ya kwamba yale tuliona yakitendwa hapo awali hatutaki kuyaona tena. Na tukasema ya kwamba hatuwezi kuona nyumba ya mtu mmoja ikichomwa.
The meeting brought together leaders from the South Rift region, including Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, his Kericho counterpart Paul Chepkwony, Governor Samuel Tunai of Narok, Senators Charles Keter and Wilfred Lesan, and 32 MPs from the ruling coalition. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
Well, away from the politics is another issue that we've been talking about this entire week, and that is, of course, on the gender rule, the matrix, or rather the logistics, the formula of how this is going to be done prior to August the 27th is something rather important for the country to discuss now. And Yvonne, you've got some statistics on the same.
Yes, I just want us to take stock of how we got here. So let's start with this one. You saw this when we started with the bulletin. So let's take you back to August 27th, 2010. We overwhelmingly passed the Constitution. This is what we overwhelmingly voted for, that we would have 1/3 of women in elective public bodies. So this is where we began. We didn't quite know how we were going to get it done, but we agreed on this essentially, basically. So let's take you now to October 2012. That was on the 8th of October, to be precise. The Attorney General went to the Supreme Court and he asked for an advisory opinion. He wanted to know if we were able to implement the gender rule by the time we were having the first general election in March 2013 under the new constitution. Later in December, the Supreme Court said to the Attorney General, no need to do it in 2013. However, you must enact and pass a law by the 27th of August 2015. This is the law that would determine the formula of how to ensure that we have 1/3 of women in elective office. So we had the elections in March 2013, and this is the outcome. Now, out of 290 constituency members of National Assembly, we elected only 16. And then remember, we also elected county women representatives. Many like to call them county women MPs, 47 of them. Then out of the 12 seats that were set for nomination, we nominated 5. That brings to a total the number of women in the National Assembly at 68, which accounts for 19% of the composition of the National Assembly, which again does not meet the 1/3 rule. I will also add here that the county assemblies were able to meet the 1/3 rule. So what happened was there were not enough women who were elected as county reps. So what they did was they had a top-up. 600 women were nominated across the 1,450 county wards, and the county assemblies are now okay and in compliance with this rule. But then let's come back to this year. So we have all of this push and pull between the election and now as to just how we're going to get this done. Justice and Legal Affairs Committee Chair Samuel Chepkwony then said, look, we're not able to do this by August 2015, so instead he proposed a bill to achieve the gender rule progressively. That's how he put it. Women activists say it's not progressive, it's an indefinite postponement. Not happy with this. It caused quite a furore, even within the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Take a look at what the Deputy Chair, Priscilla Nyokabi, said. She said, and I quote, Chepkwony sneaked the bill in using his position, and that the bill was never a part of the agenda of the committee. It was not an option. Now, at this point, we're at a very dangerous precipice, if you like, because what could happen if we do not pass this legislation by 27th of August 2015 is any citizen, including you, can go to court and say the National Assembly is not constituted properly according to the 1/3 gender rule, and we could then seek fresh elections. Remember, that could happen this year. All right, so this is what we're staring at in the face. But have you ever thought of what it would cost you, the taxpayer, towards achieving the gender rule? The Institute for Economic Affairs conducted a study this week, and this is what they came up with. What they're calling it is the cost of not electing women MPs. Now, for us to be able to meet the 1/3 gender rule, we need to elect 105 women in total. If we do not do that, then one of the ways of meeting that rule is nominating so that you can fill that gender deficit. So this is what it's going to cost you. 21 million shillings each year for a nominated member of parliament. Another staggering figure here for each nominated senator, 31.3 million shillings per year. That's in salaries and emoluments. The total would be 2.6 billion shillings. But the real question is, are you even aware of this rule, and does it matter? So a study was done by Ipsos Synovate. They released those findings just the other day. I think it's on Friday, actually. So take a look at the question they asked. This is it, and I quote. They asked, if you know, what is the constitutional requirement about the representation of women in all elected bodies like parliament and county assemblies? This is where it gets shocking. This bar graph here is the total. That's men and women. Just 39% were able to answer that question correctly, saying it's 1/3 of women. That is the correct answer. 39% total. It gets even more shocking when you take a look at now between men and women who answered correctly. Surprisingly, men, 45% of them answered correctly. Take a look at the women. We're at 33%. So even the women for whom this law is supposed to be beneficial aren't even aware of this constitutional requirement. Let's take a look at another one then. The other question was, do you believe this requirement will be met? Now, this was a total of everyone who was aware and not. Many are optimistic, so that's a good thing. 52% say yes, 34% say no. This is interesting. 14% don't even know if that'll happen. And finally, the most important question that we're asking you tonight is, do you believe this will improve the quality of politics and governance? Again, take a look at these statistics. 48% believe it'll improve that. That's not even half. That is not even half. Take a look at men and women, just about the same. So, out of all those surveyed, round about half of the women who were surveyed felt that this will improve the quality of politics. So about half of the women who were asked this question felt that having more women like themselves involved in elective bodies like parliament will improve the quality of politics and governance in the country. And the question comes to mind is, are women their own worst enemies? Are they even aware? So are you aware? Is this something that matters to you? This is the question we're discussing tonight. Winnie Lichuma, National Gender and Equality Commission. We also have Judy Thongori, who's a lawyer, Dr. Mutaha Kangu, and on phone we will have Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who was behind this whole 1/3 gender rule. So some shocking statistics on how much it's going to cost us and how much we're even aware.
Extremely shocking. And in fact, the nuance of it is just what is surprising in terms of how much it's going to cost.
Yes.
It's 21 million per
member of parliament.
Per member of parliament.
Yes.
And that is per year.
Per year.
My gosh. So you multiply that by...
So you want equality? It comes at a price. So quality versus quantity is also something else we'll be talking about.
It's expensive, but I mean, some would argue that it's worth it. Obviously, though, not everybody
think it is worth
not everybody thinks that it is worth it. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that discussion in a moment on Checkpoint, but we'll move on with the news and to a story that we've been covering this entire week. The recent conflict in Nadome along the Baringo-Turkana border, which left at least 60 people dead, has revived questions over the government's commitment in fighting insecurity in the North Rift region. To some, however, it has rekindled a question of county boundaries. Rita Tinina looks back at how the country acquired its county boundaries currently and what it will take to alter them, if at all.
The latest conflict between the Pokot and Turkana has once again brought to the fore an issue that the country has really never put to rest.
That the government identifies and make known the original boundaries put to rest these issues.
Measuring just over 582,000 square kilometers, Kenya does not rank among the top 10 largest countries in Africa, but it is yet to solve its boundary puzzle over half a century after independence.
If you want to know the boundaries of the Kenyan counties today, you must go back to the boundaries that were defined in the Independence Constitution.
The country had 8 provinces and 42 districts. In 1992, through the Districts and Provinces Act, the number of districts increased to 46. Between 1992 and 2009, the number of provinces remained the same, but political survival saw a change in the number of districts.
The districts had been increased by the 2 presidents, President Moi and President Kibaki, to a fairly large number.
Districts were increased to 256. The creation of new districts caused controversy, and in September 2009, following an application by 3 Nyamira residents, the High Court outlawed 210 districts created under the Moi and Kibaki regimes.
And people in Mount Elgon, that's how they ended up being told your districts was done without following the law, so you don't have your county. People in Kuria suffered the same.
The country transformed the 46 districts that were declared legal by the High Court together with Nairobi into counties when it embarked on the devolution journey. With fresh demands over boundaries, question is it possible to review them? Constituency boundaries fall under the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which can review electoral boundaries. But a change in the county boundaries will take more than just a commission.
Any changes in the boundaries of the counties will have to be done by a resolution adopted by the 2 houses of parliament, adopting recommendations made by a commission, an independent commission appointed by parliament specifically for the purpose of addressing the issue of boundaries.
But even then, an increase in the number of counties or a decrease in case of a merger would be a decision of the Kenyan voters.
That resolution would only be preparatory, but we would still have to go to the referendum to have the constitution amended to change the number of boundaries.
With the independence boundaries still in news, but with communities which have been living side by side for decades under the same boundaries now citing boundary issues, analysts argue conflict may be more than just an issue of boundaries.
It is not the boundary. It is access to limited resources.
There is nothing like cattle rustling anymore. And that has been the statement that the government is using to justify their laxity.
Conflict among warring communities in the North Rift has claimed dozens of lives and displaced hundreds, and the spotlight will remain on the government, which is under pressure to tame the recurrent conflict. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Leaders from cattle rustling and banditry-prone areas in the North Rift now want the government to establish a ministry that will exclusively address insecurity in the region. The leaders from Turkana and Baringo counties are asking the Jubilee government to take decisive action against insecurity in the area. This comes as Baringo Senator Gideon Moi asks the government to take full responsibility for the Nadome attacks.
The Monday attacks on Nadome village that left 66 people dead is one that has wrought disquiet in the North Rift region. The attack, suspected to have been conducted by Turkana cattle rustlers, is not the first between the clashing Turkana and Pokot communities, but indeed of a startling magnitude. And now, leaders from Turkana and Baringo counties want the government to step up its intervention in the region.
Our people are dying, and we are getting tired. So the Jubilee government must actually give this a priority the way it has given resources to Northeastern terror challenge.
With the Ministry of State for Northern Kenya and Pastoralism, they will have a responsible cabinet secretary and a number of ministries working together in addressing the problems amongst the Pokot, the Turkana, the Samburu, the Chamis.
The leaders who held a crisis meeting in Eldoret town Sunday want the government to establish a ministry that will exclusively address issues of cattle rustling and runaway security in the region. They say that previous efforts and forums convened both regionally and nationally to curb the security menace have not borne any fruit. The leaders have accused the government of what they termed as reactionary tactics to approach the insecurity issue in the region.
We also call upon the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Coordination to operationalize the Boma In and Aturkan declarations on the registration of illegal firearms in the communities and to deploy the National Police Reservists in the area, as has been agreed before.
Baringo Senator Gideon Moi has asked the government to take full responsibility over the Nadome attacks. He said that the government has failed in protecting its citizens as mandated by the Constitution, and it is high time that the government reviews its security apparatus in the banditry-prone areas.
Umetuwapatia askari, yes. Wamefika 600. Kama wameshindwa na kazi, utueleze, sisi wenyewe tutajua vile tutachunga watu wetu.
Sharma Manyi, KTN.
Lolkuniani Livestock Market in Samburu County is said to be the biggest in East Africa. It brings together pastoralists from the counties of Turkana, Baringo, Isiolo, Pokot and Samburu itself. Now often embroiled in hostilities of one kind or another, the communities participating in the buying and selling of animals have, however, confessed to getting along very well on market days, that is, every Thursday. Their prayer is now to extend this goodwill to their homes in order to end the perennial war and cattle rustling. This comes at a time when Kenya is, of course, mourning the loss of over 60 lives at Nadome village in Turkana County last week.
It is not just an ordinary market day here in Samburu, but also, most importantly, a peaceful day. This is why, for years, cattle rustling has characterized this part of the country. The Samburu, Burji, Turkana, Borana and the Pokot communities clashing over water, pasture and supremacy too. Lives being lost and families displaced are quite a common occurrence. But the Lolkuniani livestock market has brought about a rather new and welcome twist to the conflict, uniting all the communities.
Sasa kama hakuna amani, mimi nitahusia nani hizi mbuzi? Hizi mbuzi nanunua kwa Wasamburu wenzangu. Nitahusia nani? Wanakuja kutoka all the way kutoka kwao aje wanunue mpaka hadi hapa nyumbani kwetu. So wakisema hakuna amani, barabara ya Isiolo Ngaremara, watapitia wapi waje wanunue mbuzi zangu?
Hii mambo cattle rustling imeanza kupungua ndani ya community yetu. Hii mambo highway robbery imeanza kupungua katikati ndani ya community yetu. Na development mingi imekuja kwa hii soko kwa sababu biashara imekuja.
It goes beyond enjoying the peace that comes with the unity. The communities are also making money, good money, with estimations of between 2 to 5 million shillings being exchanged here weekly. However, the communities do feel that more needs to be done to better the markets.
Hii barabara si mzuri, hii barabara laga hii mebormoko na maji. Sasa hii lori sisi naitisha kitoka Moyale, kitoka Marsabit, hatupati gari hapa. Hiyo ni shida pia, tena gharama ya gari ni juu. Tena hapa sisi nalipa sesi juu sana kodi. Sababu mbuzi moja ni 100. Export ni 150. Sasa kitoka Nairobi sisi hii gari imekomboa 50,000. Ikirudisha na gharama hii yote sisi naumia.
Their hope now is that peace shall prevail beyond just the market day. Ian Wafula, KTN.
10 people have died and several others have been injured following an accident that occurred this morning at Kipkaren Trading Center along the Eldoret-Malaba Highway.
The accident occurred after a 14-seater matatu collided with a trailer. 7 people died on the spot. The other 4 died at Lumakanda Sub-District Hospital while receiving treatment. Other injured passengers are admitted at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret.
I'm appealing the members of the public that it should be a collective responsibility so that we can stop this menace of the road carnage, which is claiming a lot of lives.
Now, Gor Mahia was earlier held to a barren draw by Western Stima at the Moi Stadium in Kisumu. The Green Army, as usual, painted the city green with paraphernalia and loads of drama. But the match also saw a section of the fans clash with street urchins whose base is adjacent to the Moi Stadium. Victor Ogale with the rest of this story.
A section of fans who had come for the Gor Mahia versus Western Stima match engaged in a stone-throwing battle outside the Moi Stadium in Kisumu City. It is believed that the fans provoked the street urchins at the Kachok dumping site, forcing them to hurl stones and other objects to each other. On the streets, Gor Mahia fans painted the streets green with all manner of paraphernalia and theatrics. This fan opted to assist motorists in clearing traffic into the stadium. This section of fans seemed not to part with the gate collection, but their efforts did not bear fruit with the security organs on standby. Inside the stadium, things were no different, as those who seemed to cause trouble got their equal match. On the pitch, Kogalo's attack line seemed not to go past the Western Stima backline, with the match ending with a barren draw.
We are proud for the peaceful game. Na vile tumecheza na vile tumeangisha Western Stima tukasete kabisa.
Ingetaka hizo 3 points tuchukue leo, lakini it's unfortunate hatujaichukua.
Hatujafunga bao sio, lakini hatujakufa moyo. Bado tuko unbeaten. Mimi kama pastor wa Full Gospel of Kogalo, All Saint Cathedral, St. Braddock's, tuko pamoja.
In other league matches, Sony Sugar played KCB to a barren draw, with the Shuru FC beating Nakuru All Stars 2-0. The barren draw leaves Gor Mahia still at the lead of the Kenyan Premier League table, with the unbeaten run still on course. Victor Ogale, KTN at the Moi Stadium in Kisumu County.
The Nairobi Champions Cup entered its second day today, with Kangemi Patriots beating Egan Youth 3-0 to advance to the second round. Others who proceeded to the next round were Kibera Talents and Red Carpet, who were 2-0 winners over FC Barca.
Kibera Talents edged out WISA 2-1 on the second day of the Nairobi Champions Cup at Kahimbuini grounds in Kangemi. Pascal Asiko and Emmanuel Tole scored a goal each for the winners in the 4th and 34th minutes respectively. Donald Monte had scored the opening goal for WISA in the 8th minute. In another match, Red Carpets beat FC Barca 2-0 with goals from Edwin Amanya and James Juma. The tournament is open to teams that are participating in the Nairobi Provincial League. Stakeholders hope the tournament will bring to the fore the next top players who will take over the mantle from the fading stars.
Championship inaleta impact kabisa, juu inaleta vijana na kwa pamoja, hizi mambo za madrugs manini zinakuwa kando. Kwanza nimefurahia sana na Nairobi branch vile wamefanya hii tournament ikuwe successful, mpaka unapata regional hizo county zingine zote zinataka kuiga mfano ya Nairobi.
This is a picture we've had since December, to bring back the game to the people and the grassroots. There is no football without grassroots. So it reminds me of the passion that people can have when you score a goal on these pitches where there's no grass, where the boots are worn out and stuff, like, because that is where talent comes from. That is where the passion of the game is excited.
Tandaz University of Nairobi edged out Visions from Embakasi 2-1 on Saturday. The students were the better side and should have gone ahead in the 7th minute after Walter Orondo was denied by Daniel Otieno on the Visions goal for fruitless corner. The tournament attracted a huge turnout. In other matches, Gor Mahia Youth edged out Umeme 4-1 on post-match penalties. The match had ended 1-1 in full time. Karibangi All Stars beat Dandora Academy 3-0.
All right, let's take a look at your feedback tonight as we wind up our bulletin. Manchester City. I'm to try and say that 5 times real quick.
I thought you weren't listening. Okay. So,
all right. Okay. Let's talk about this. Calvin_Sky. You say Phoebe Asio's recent assertion to women has a lot of sense. Women shouldn't wait to be nominated. Shiko Ann, in response to the question about women reps and whether they've done a good job so far, she says because the men so far have done wonders for us, eh?
Good question. Good question. I mean, you flip it on its head.
Absolutely.
Men have been representing Kenyans for
since independence.
Yes.
P. Swale says politics will never change despite the gender rule. While Gatwiri, you say, have elected male MPs performed any better?
I don't have any here. I'm trying to find some, although there are quite a number. But I guess if you go to Checkpoint, #Checkpoint, you can see that some of that feedback, then continue the conversation on the gender rule. Of course, that doesn't have to end with the end of this bulletin, but that is where we will end this bulletin for this evening. My name is John Allen. Have a good night.
My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Have a great week ahead. We'll see you next weekend. Bye-bye.